Hey everybody, this is part of our full-length primetime podcast. You can check it out on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, plenty more. I hope you enjoy.
But we're going to move on into our next topic, and we're going into Kevin Sumlin and the Texas A&M Aggies. And if you're on YouTube, you're noticing right now that, hey, Ricky, we can't see you. That's because Brandon is in Florida doing an audio-only podcast this week on the YouTube channel. And the reason why we're talking Sumlin and Texas A&M is the fact that Texas A&M AD Scott Woodward came out and said this today. He said, and I quote, "Coach knows he has to win, and he has to win this year. We have to do better than we've done in the past. It doesn't come up to objective data reading of wins and losses. That's not going to be the way I look at it. It's going to be a lot of subjectivity brought into it. How we win, what we do, how we do it, for me to make a decision on someone's future," end quote. And I look at this and I go, this is a coach that not even 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago on this podcast, when me and Brandon were talking about coaches on the hot seat, I said it's got to be Kevin Sumlin. And the reason why it's got to be Kevin Sumlin is, what have you done for me lately, big guy? I mean, this is a coach where I'm not going to say that Kevin Sumlin is a terrible head coach. Now, his leadership has come into question at times. I know that last August we were talking about an incident with him and his former assistants that it was unbearable at the time. His leadership has come into question, but he has won football games. And I mean, you look at his record overall, in the Aggies are 33-19 since that 11-2 Manziel Heisman winning season. However, they're not even 500 in the SEC play since then. And that is the big thing that I think this comes into with the Sumlin job. You got to win in the SEC. You have to win your SEC games, because if you do not win your SEC games, we will find somebody else. And the reason why is, if you're not going to win now, there's no way you are ever going to overtake Alabama for the top school in your division. Oh yeah, that's right. They are in your division. That's who you have. And I mean, looking at the schedule for Texas A&M this year, who do you open up the schedule against? Oh yeah, that's right. Right now on my quarterback rankings, the fourth best quarterback in this draft class on the road at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena is the UCLA Bruins. You also get a good Razorback team on the road. You get the Alabama Crimson Tide. Yes, that game is at home, but you still get them. You get Florida, who could be with Malik Zaire. I was going to talk about that this week, but I thought, hey, let's see what happens with the graduation rule. But there's a possibility that Florida could have Zaire for that game if the SEC decides to waive the graduate transfer rule that they currently have. Auburn's going to be a much improved team. LSU's going to be a much improved team. And the thing that I look at is, what do you want with Texas A&M? How longer? I said this in the hot seat conversation. I was going to say the hot coaches. The hot seat conversation that Brandon and I had, I said, how often do you just want to be, whatever, complacent? Mediocre, complacent, however you want to look at it, because unless your goal, and it's different to have a goal and work towards getting that goal, how often do you want to say, yeah, we want to beat Alabama, but we're not going to beat Alabama? You can't have that mindset. And I think with Kevin Sumlin at the head of the Texas A&M Aggies, you are not going to dethrone Nick Saban and Alabama. And the reason why is, I'll use Alabama as the kind of example in that. Look at what Nick Saban has built. And I know that we kind of had the mock question of like, oh, should we worry that Nick Saban only has 2 recruits for the 2018 season? No, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't worry, but you got to have, in order to beat Nick Saban, you have to have a coach that is just as structured and just as good of an organizer as he is. And I say that as I wouldn't say that he's an actual organizer, but he does have a culture in place. Look at Dabo Swinney. There's a reason why Clemson was able to not only give Alabama a fight the first year they were in the national title, but then this last year, Deshaun Watson and Dabo Swinney again were able to overcome Nick Saban, and that's because he's a coach that has a culture. He has his guys buying in to that culture. I don't see that type of organization, whether it's the Nick Saban side or the Dabo Swinney side with Kevin Sumlin. I see it as you had Johnny Manziel in 2012. Johnny Manziel won the Heisman that year because it was flash in the pan. Whoa, we haven't seen him. And then he came down to earth a little bit. I know it was only a 9-4 season compared to a 11-2, but the SEC is where it's at. Under 500, they were 6-2. 6-2 with Johnny Manziel. And Johnny Manziel beat Alabama that year. The other years with someone, 4-4, 3-5, 4-4, 4-4, 4-4. So 3 4-4 seasons, 1 3-5 season since. And I know what you're saying, Ricky. Whoa, under 500. That's just one game, Ricky. Just one game under 500. And I'm sitting there looking at you going, you're not mad at a 500 season. You are not mad at 500. And for me, I feel like if Illinois, who is a school where, I mean, you look at, and I know Tim Beckman towards the end had the whole how he treated players thing going against him too. Kind of, I wouldn't even put that with someone's leadership. I'll leave that off to the side. But with even Beckman, that was the thing. Hey, schedule 4 games. Hope we win a couple of non-conferences. And then that one year, hey, we won two conference games and were able to get to a bowl game, and he still got canned after the next year. And Bill Cubitt had to take over as the interim before they brought in Lovie Smith. So I'm looking at a bad team in the Big Ten do that. And I look at a team that people expect to compete in the SEC, and they're not going to do that. I feel like Kevin Sumlin, this will be the last year for him. And I totally feel that because, like I said, looking at their schedule, it's been an entire 8-5, 4-4 the last 2 seasons of his time at Texas A&M. And I know what you're saying. Well, Ricky, the 4-4 isn't great, but 8-5, it's still a winning record. If your goal is to make a bowl game, and that's it, make a bowl game, then yeah, Kevin Sumlin is your guy. But Aggie fans, if you want to, compete for the SEC division or the SEC crown or the college football playoff, you need to fire Kevin Sumlin. You need to get rid of him after this year because from what I've seen since that Johnny Manziel 11-2 season, I don't like it. I do not like it, and I don't think it is the recipe for success to get you over the hump you're at. Kevin Sumlin's a guy where I feel like right now, if you're happy with going 8-5, having a winning record, not necessarily doing so well, going 4-4 in the SEC, but going, hey man, woo, that SEC, it is tough. It's a tough conference to play in. Woo, high fives all around. If you're okay with that, then go ahead, keep Kevin Sumlin. But if you are not okay with that, and you want to eventually win the division or win the conference or even go to the college football playoff, you need to look elsewhere from Kevin Sumlin because I'm looking at the schedule for this year. UCLA at UCLA, I'm sorry, you're not winning that game. Nicholls State, you should win that one, 1-1. UL Lafayette, Louisiana Lafayette, you should win that one. Okay, 2-1. Razorbacks at the Razorbacks, I'll give it to Arkansas. You're 2-2. South Carolina, kind of a toss-up game. I'll give it to the Aggies. You're at 3-2. Bama's a loss. Florida's a loss. You're right there, 3-4. Mississippi State's a toss-up. I'll leave it out there for right now. Auburn's a loss. You're at 3-5. New Mexico's a win. You're at 4-5. Old Miss, I'll give you that one, 5-5 LSU's a loss this year. You're at 4-6. Even with that Mississippi win, if I gave you a win, 500 season. That's what I look at right now. A 500 season for the Texas A&M Aggies. And now, is everything I say with the wins and the losses going to happen? Boom, bingo, bango, bongo. That's how it works? No, that's just how I see it. And Kevin Sumlin, to me, is a coach that for the past few seasons I've looked at and gone, guys, it's just mediocrity. And it's just looking there being complacent with going, I'm using the last 2 seasons, 8-5 and then 4-4 in your conference and being okay. I think this year is going to be different. I think you guys don't get to 8-5 right now. I don't see it. Like I said, the out of conference games, I got you going 3-1, but in conference, Razorback loss, Alabama loss, Florida loss, Auburn and LSU. That's 5 right there. That means Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. That is 3-5. That is right up the alley of where you will be this season in my mind. And of course, there's, like I said, the Mississippi State game and even the Ole Miss game I'm kind of torn on. I don't know which way those two are going to go, but I look at Kevin Sumlin and I see mediocrity and I see someone who's gotten to the hump of this is where I'm at. I can't get over it. And if you want to win the division, if you want to win the conference, or if you want to make the college football playoff, then what you need to do is you need to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? We got to get rid of Kevin Sumlin at the end of the year. Now, the one thing I will say, and this is me kind of saying it's not dead in the water that at the end he has to go into everything, because the thing that you got to think from Woodward's statements is, how did we lose? What did we do? To me, the what did we do is going into that leadership. How is everything behind the scenes? Are we set up for success? And what I think is going to happen is I pray that it's not a lot of close losses, because I feel like if it's a lot of close losses, Woodward would look at that and go, hey, you know what? It was a field goal here. Could have went either way, buddy. Keep your job. And if I'm a Texas A&M fan, I'm either hoping that you guys make the playoff, because really, to me, the only way you keep the job is if I would say, I'm going to put a number on it. 2 losses in the SEC. 2 losses in the SEC. That's it. That's all you can lose. Florida and Alabama are the only 2, which it's going to be hard, because Auburn's going to be a tough game. And I'm telling you, LSU is going to be better this year. I'm looking at an LSU guy later in the podcast actually coming up next, and they are going to be a tougher team this year to go with, even without Leonard Fournette, because they got Geis back there. So they really are going to be a better team. I think you guys lose more than 2. I would if I'm an Aggie fan, I'm hoping just for a season to get someone out, get someone new in, so that you guys can move forward and maybe win the division and maybe look to dethrone, that's the word I'm looking for, dethrone the Alabama Crimson Tide and maybe even one day win the SEC. But this is where I'm going to turn it on to you guys, Texas A&M fans. Let me know down below, what do you guys think? Do you want Sumlin? First off, do you want Sumlin to keep his job? Are you hoping he loses the job? And then at the end of the year, what do you think will happen? Do you think he'll get fired? Do you think that he'll do enough to save his job? Let me know down below in the comment section.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed a lot of emotion. If you want more, click this video right over my left shoulder. You will certainly not regret it.